Hello, welcome to Texas Cooking Today. This episode I want to talk to you about seasoning your pan. No, I'm not talking about salt and pepper. We're talking about putting a layer of oil on there and baking it in so it protects the pan and becomes nonstick. Yeah, really, nonstick. Here's the thing, this has been known about for a long time. People would use cast iron skillets and still do, or carbon steel pans, and in some cases even stainless steel. Some people will season stainless steel. You don't have to season stainless steel, it's not going to rust, but you still can if you want to. I don't prefer to do my stainless, but my iron and this right here, this carbon steel, all of this needs seasoning. Now this has been seasoned before, but some of that has worn off or washed off. The bottom is still looking pretty good, and it received the same number of coats that this side did, but this is the side that gets the use, okay? So what we're gonna be doing today, I'm gonna be reseasoning this. I might do 1 or 2 coats on the bottom, but primarily I'm trying to get some coats build up on the inside because I'm back down to the metal on this in some spots. When you're seasoning a pan, you're not gonna immediately get this hardcore black look, okay? It's going to take some time to get that built up, all right? It's going to take many coats. You can use the pan during that time, but when you're not using it, in between uses, reseason each time. And when you do this, you're going to slowly be building that layer up on this until eventually you have a layer that's not going to wear off, it's not going to wash off. It's going to be non-stick and it'll hold up well for cooking. So what's really going on here? What is seasoning and how does it work? Let me pull up a stool, we're going to talk about this. It's about the oil you use. So here's the thing. I'm going to be using this oil back here for seasoning my pans. It's not the oil I cook with. There are oils with a much, much higher smoke point than this. In fact, this is one of the lowest smoke points, and it's extremely high in omega-3 fatty acids. So what's going on here? Okay, here's the thing. I didn't want to do this show until I had some real proof in my life and really understood from personal experience what works, what doesn't work, why what doesn't work, and why what works. Okay, over my lifetime, things have changed when it comes to fat and oil. The way things are processed, they're now processed more and they're much more highly refined than when I was a boy. When I was a boy, my mother would use lard to season the pans with. She would put just a little bit in there, melt it, rub it all over it, get rid of any excess, and then put it in the oven, let it cook for an hour and turn the oven off, and she would just leave it in there. So she always did her ironware that way. And it always had this beautiful black coating. Then some years later, she stopped using the ironware, stuck with the stainless, and went on with life. All right, so I inherited the ironware, wanted to use the ironware. But in my efforts to reseason, I got different results. Didn't matter if I used lard or if I used canola oil or peanut oil or olive oil, I kept getting the same bad results. Not that it wouldn't burn on there, it was doing that. The bad part of it was that every time I'd wash it, it would literally wash off. And I wasn't even using the scrubby side of the sponge, I was using the sponge side, and the sponge itself was washing off this built up seasoned coating. And I would look at my sponge, it'd be brown. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Started researching this. Turns out that the lower the smoking point, the better the probability of you getting polymerization and the bonding of polymerization with the pan and the carbon that is produced at that same time. Two things are happening. You're producing carbon, and through a polymerization process, it bonds to the pan. Oh, I know, that's a lot to say, but I did a lot of studying. The diet of pigs has changed in the last 50 years. Pigs lard used to have a lot of omega-3 fats in it because they had a much more natural diet. Well, they've taken them off of that and they're putting them on a different diet, and they're not producing nearly as much of that omega-3 fat in lard as it used to have. In fact, it has almost none now. And you might think, omega-3, isn't that what's in fish oil? Well, yeah, it's in a lot of things. It's also in flaxseed oil, flax oil right there. That's what we're going to be using on this. In fact, that's one of the highest omega-3 fatty acids you can find. And that's an omega-3 acid that really does the job. It really bonds super duper well to the pan. It's much, much harder, way harder to wash off. These will polymerize and bond to the pan, but they won't last during washing. This will. I did this pan only, I would say, 6 or 7 coats, and that was a couple of years ago, and I've been using it, and this is the first time I'm re-seasoning it. First time. Okay, so it's been through a lot of use, a hellacious amount of use. Yet, it wears off very slowly. This side, which only gets scraped against things, you can see where it's worn off, where it's scraped, but the rest of it's good and black, and the handles are still beautiful. When you first start doing this, you're going to see different colors. You'll see maybe a golden brown, kind of a, I guess you'd call it bronze color. Yeah, kind of like that. Or dark brown. It won't immediately be black. It'll take time to build that black layer up. And I can't say how many coats. Depends on the color of your pan and what oil you're using and a lot of other variables. So here's the basis of this. You take the pan, you cover it in oil, you heat it in the oven at 350 degrees, you leave it in there for 1 hour, and then you turn the oven off. Don't remove it from the oven. Part of the process is the slow cooling. The pan has to cool slowly so it completes the process the right way. So you get the right type of bonding between the oil, which has been changed in the heat of the oven, and the metal that you've put it on. You want good tight bonding there. So first thing to remember is make sure that coat is as thin as possible. I'm not kidding about this. If you try a thick coat, you're going to be really disappointed. It's going to form a gummy, nasty layer in your pan. It'll be uneven and it won't be fun. It'll still clean out, but it takes time. Now, before we do this, you need to clean your pan. There's a couple of ways. I just put mine under water and scrubbed it really well. The other way is if you want to go back all the way to the metal, to the very beginning, and you've got a seasoned pan already, you can actually incinerate that right off of there. You put it in the oven, set the oven for about 550 degrees and walk off. Come back a few hours later, your pan will be back down to the metal. It will literally bake the seasoned coating clean off of it. It's the same way that a self-cleaning oven self-cleans. It just literally incinerates what's in there to ash. And so it'll do that to your pan. I've done that before, and actually the first time I did it was by mistake. I was trying to do this process and I thought, oh, well, I'll do a better job by heating up the oven. Well, guess what didn't happen? And then afterwards, when I did more study, I learned that certain temperatures work better provided you're using the right oil. Omega-3 fatty acids smoke at a very low temperature, okay? And that low smoking point is your salvation to good quality, seasoned finish. Come over, let's get started. Come on, I'll show you. Okay, I've just set my oven to preheat. It's heating at 350 degrees. So 350 degrees is the temperature I recommend you do this at. You don't need any more oil than that. In fact, that's way more than I need, okay? The whole idea here is super duper thin coat, okay? Which means you only want just enough to be on there and no more. Like right now, the coat I have on here is just simply way too thick. So what I want to do is cover the whole pan with what I have here, and then, and I see I'm doing the handles also, and then once I've got the whole pan coated, I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'm going to go ahead and do the heat on it, which is 1 hour, 350. Something else I want to mention, let me fold these in, is that when you're doing this and you turn that oven off, just leave it in there, don't pull it out, okay? You don't want to be messing with the process. the oil that is in there will pool if you don't remove the excess. So even though it looks like I didn't leave any excess, well, under heat, when it gets hot and it starts becoming viscous and flowing, it will be too much. Now what I've put on the bottom was just what I wiped off of this, which is probably the right amount, but I'm still going to thin it up a little bit. Now what I mean by thinning it, I'm going to take this and remove any excess. See there? There's still oil on there. I didn't wipe all the oil off. I can't. I would have to wash it with detergent to get all that oil off. So I want the thinnest layer I can get. And this is one of those things that really works better with thin layers. Oops, pardon me. It's kind of like when you are doing, polyurethane or coats of paint. Building up real thin coats works way, way better. Now look at this, what came off of that. That wasn't dirt, that was just some of the other, caramelized, but some of that other baked on finish, the other seasoned finish that was on there that I've already partially scrubbed today. There's just some of that coming off is all. And that was the reason we're doing this, because we got some of that that's coming off, all right? This will not fit in my oven the right way. I have to put it in there kind of cockeyed at an angle. So I'm going to turn my handles in, and I'm going to put it in there upside down, cocked at an angle. And the reason I go in upside down is it prevents any pooling in the bottom. It would run off of the edge and drip. You might have a thick spot on that edge, but big deal. That doesn't matter. We just don't want it in the bottom. So it goes in the oven, upside down, 350, 1 hour. Okay, let's get it in there. My oven is at the right temperature. I've got my pan all ready to go in there. And again, upside down. And I've also got this guy, watch him. He goes in upside down also. There we go. Let them cook, that's 1 hour. Okay, once again, back in the oven, 350 degrees, 1 hour. Something I wanted to mention before I go on to any other layers on this. Of course, I've done a couple of layers now. I was using some old flaxseed oil that I had, and it had changed, okay? It had a different odor to it. And this is something that commonly happens with oils, and that's the reason I wanted to mention this. It had done what's called varnished, or varnishing. When an oil has varnished, that means it's changed in its character, basically, and its chemical composition is changing a little bit. Basically, it's spoiling, is a fancy way of saying it. And that means the oil has turned bad on you. And to know whether an oil has varnished or not, it's really simple. If it smells like it is an oil-based paint, then it has varnished, okay? It should smell like a nice, clean, freshly opened bottle of linseed oil, if you've ever smelled that before. It's the same thing. Linseed oil, flaxseed oil, they're both the same. I'm going to continue this process with this bottle since it does not have varnished oil in it. I've already smelled it. It smells nice and clean. And again, takes very little of it. Rub it into the pan. Now you're already seeing a difference here, and it's pretty obvious. So continue the process where you give it a thin coat, wipe off all the excess oil, hit it at 350, 1 hour, leave it in there when you turn off the oven to let it cool, and that allows the full polymerization process to occur when it comes to how the omega-3 fats break down in this oil and what they do on the surface of that metal in heat. Okay, so it's all part of the game. And folks, This really works. Now, as I mentioned before, you know, it used to be that you would use lard, and of course, some time back when my mother was a child, the what pigs would eat was a little different than what they're fed now. So they've changed the pig's diet, and as a result, the pig is no longer producing as much omega-3 fat as it used to do on its original or its more natural diet. So that's that. Anyway, we are now using flaxseed oil, which works wonderful. So do both sides. I'll get it back in the oven, and we'll see this get just a little darker. It's going to get kind of a beautiful bronze color here real soon. I'm looking forward to that. It has been several days. I don't do this all in one day. I never try to. In fact, generally I don't try to do more than one coat per day if I'm going to season pans. I just don't want to mess with it. Okay, it's just that simple. All I do is rub a little oil on it, put it in the oven, let it cook, bring it back out, and eventually you end up with a really nice looking pan. Okay, check that out. That's a good looking pan. Also, there was this little guy. It was getting kind of rough looking. I put it in there. Now it comes out shiny, good looking. It's what it should be, all right? It's also quite non-stick. Both of these are. And so they're not going to rust on me. They're not going to stick. And when I cook with them, if I lose some of my seasoning after cooking, washing, whatever, then I simply add a little oil, put it in the oven, and walk off. And that's what we do after we clean the pans. We clean the pan, put oil on it, put it in the oven, give it an hour, and then you're done, okay? And just leave it sitting in there. And that's where this has been since the last time it cooked, and that was a couple of days ago, actually. So it's just been sitting in there. It's not gonna hurt it. One thing's for sure, this kind of coating is incredible. When I got this pan, it was as silver as stainless, okay? And with several coats of this stuff, here's what it looks like on the bottom, which of course doesn't get any cooking action, so it stays nice and dark. The top that gets all of the action and all the scrubbing and everything else had to be completely recoated. Something I do want to mention though, and this is important, non-stick. You know, you get these non-stick cookie sheets, and then after a number of months you notice that oil's building up and it's sticking on there and it's hard to get off. It is. It's really hard to get off. Go ahead and season those non-stick baking pans. The black buildup on it will actually assist you in your baking. It'll give you darker crust, okay? It works. It works well. That's the reason that chefs hang on to their old pans once they turn kind of dark and ugly. That's when we make good food on them, okay? So it's a good thing. Don't be afraid to season a non-stick bakeware, all right? You don't have to be afraid of that. The only pans I would recommend not doing that to are, you know, like mold pans, things like that. Like if you had Nordic ware bundt pans or something, don't season that. They've got such a high grade of non-stick coating. The only thing you have to do is lightly spray it with oil before baking in it, and it never sticks. Okay, so it's wonderful stuff. Other than that, I recommend going this way. Enjoy doing that. Use the flaxseed oil. Make sure it's fresh, otherwise it'll have a strange odor. And thank you very much for watching this. Please take a look in the description box. You're going to see some links to Texas Cooking Today and also my website. My website's S.A.Trotter.com. That's where I sell my recipes. That's also where I sell my prints, my artwork, my services. That's where I market myself. So if you would take a look at that, I'd appreciate it. And if you want something there, well, feel free. Folks, thank you for watching, and please have a good day. Bye-bye. I wanted to mention to you my recipes. Yes, I sell my recipes. Okay, look, some people, they give the recipes out for free and they charge for the tutorial. So I do it the opposite on YouTube. You get the tutorial for free, I charge for the recipe. I did a lot of work, a lot of writing, a lot of extra stuff that goes with this, okay? Come over a little closer. Let me show you one of these up close so you really realize what you're getting. And then also, I'm offering one for free. We'll take a quick look at that right now. Come here. This is what I'm talking about right here. When I fill out a recipe, when I write one, I always bullet point all of the ingredients, okay? A simple one or a complex one. I, in addition, number the instructions, and often I'll give pictures with it. Now, not all of them are this well done, but this is what I'm going for on every single one from here on out. All of my new recipes you're going to see done this way. And on the end of the recipe, there's always a place for notes for yourself, okay? Right now, go to my website. You're going to get this one right here for free, okay? Cinnamon rolls. Enjoy that cinnamon rolls recipe and take a look at the others I have. They're really worth your time.